All right, everyone, we are just going to go ahead and get started in a couple minutes just to let everybody stream in, but thank you so much for joining us. All right, everyone, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. And we're just going to start with a few housekeeping norms. So if you have a question, please just type it into the Q&A box below. And just as a reminder, the U.S. Small Business Administration does not endorse Public-Private Strategies Institute, and this session is being live streamed and recorded. Finally, please do not share any personal information in the Q&A function below. And with that, I'm going to take it over to Renee Johnson, our Senior Advisor here at Public-Private Strategies.
Thank you so much, Sydney, and thank you all so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you all here because today we are focusing on veterans. And with that, I want to go ahead and go to our next slide so we can talk about particularly the Building a Better America webinar series. So today's goal is to connect small businesses with critical resources and information, including how the bipartisan infrastructure law, the American Rescue Plan, and Made in America may provide opportunities to help your small businesses thrive. We are going to highlight and take how you can take steps to learn and take advantage of existing programs, updates regarding programs and recent policy announcements, and then we're going to have key discussions on important and timely policy issues. And they're going to include things like the important paid leave, the earned income tax credit, the child tax credit, and access to affordable healthcare, as well as COVID-19 recovery and how to make sure your businesses are still staying safe during this time. Let's go on to that next slide. But without further ado, I'm so excited that we have some amazing speakers today. We have Larry from the Associate Administrator of the Office of Veteran Business Development with U.S. Business Administration. We have Mr. Antonio Das, who's the Deputy Associate Administrator of the Office of Government and Contracting and Business Development with the SBA. We have VR Small, who is a founder and CEO of Veteran Women's Enterprise Centers. And then Shelby Nelson, who is the Program Experience Manager at Bunker Labs. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you. And so again, we're going to talk about the updates of this administration and those key points that we just discussed. And so with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker today, Mr. Larry Stubblefield, who is the Associate Administrator of the Office of Veteran Business Development. Larry?
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about the Office of Veterans Business Development and what we do for the veteran small business community. So with that, I'll jump right into the presentation. So here on the first slide, we talk about veterans as being a pillar of the U.S. economy. And I'll just give you a few facts about veteran small business owners. First of all, there's 32.5 million small businesses in America. And of that number, nearly 2 million are veteran-owned. And those veteran-owned small businesses produce $1 trillion in annual receipts. They employ 4.5 million employees. They have an annual payroll of $195 billion. And then the one thing that we know about veteran business owners, veterans hire other veterans. So in the Office of Office of Veterans Business Development, I should say, we call it OVBD. We empower veterans transitioning service members and those are service members leaving the military, National Guard, and reserve members and military spouses with the tools that they need to start, grow, and expand the business. And we do that through providing counseling, training, and education. We help with access to capital and contracting opportunities, whether it be at the federal, state, or local levels. And in the in the unfortunate situation of a natural declared disaster, we help those businesses recover as well. So on the next slide. So how do we do this? So we have a vast nationwide ecosystem that's comprised of over 30 grantees and numerous resource partners and stakeholders. And at the center of this is our 68 SBA district offices located around the country. And every district office has a veteran business development officer in that district office. On the next slide, at the heart of our support structure is our Veterans Business Outreach Centers. We have 22 veteran business outreach centers located around the country. They cover all 50 states and US territories. We look at our Veteran Business Outreach Centers, or VBOCs as we call them, as a one-stop shop for all of your entrepreneurial needs. And the slide here just indicates some of the ways that VBOCs help service members and military spouses, start and grow their businesses. One area I'd like to point out is for transitioning service members. And again, these are service members leaving the service. We offer our Boots to Business program, and I'll talk about that in a subsequent slide. But the VBOCs are also, heavily invested in providing business planning, helping you finance your business. If you have social media needs, marketing your business. And then a big part of what VBOCs do is connect the business owners with additional resources that are located in those community areas. Like I said, we have 22 Veteran Business Outreach Centers. In fiscal year 23, we're looking to expand the VBOC program. We will go from 22 Veteran Business Outreach Centers to 34. And so there's a number of states, 12 additional states that will get a VBOC to include Puerto Rico. All right, next slide. So this slide here just talks about the Boots to Business program. And again, we teach Boots to Business on military installations around the world as part of the Department of Defense's Transition Assistance Program. So Boots to Business is a 2-day workshop. It's an introduction to business ownership. And at the conclusion of the 2-day workshop, we provide additional information on follow-on resources, if and in the event that the participant is interested in continuing their entrepreneurial journey. On this slide, it shows Boots to Business and Boots to Business Reboot. They are the same course. The difference is one is on the installation as part of the transition for transitioning service members. And the second one, Boots to Business Reboot, is the same program, but it's taught in communities around the country. So veterans and military spouses, whether they're a part of the military currently or are separated from the military as either a retiree or a veteran, can participate in our Boots to Business program. So next slide, I talked about follow-on resources. We have numerous follow-on resources. I'm just highlighting 2 of them here. Our Revenue Readiness Program, which is a 6-week virtual training program that helps a participant take a business concept and develop that into a business plan. And then at SBA, we have our learning platform courses. And again, this is numerous on-demand courses that help build the entrepreneurial skills needed to either start, grow, or expand your business. Next slide, please. We also, in our Office of Veterans Business Development, work with national organizations to help them amplify and expand their programs. And here's 3 areas, that I like to highlight. We work with the University of Syracuse, for example, for a service-disabled veteran entrepreneurship training program. So we support service-disabled veterans who are interested in entrepreneurship, women veteran entrepreneurs, as well as those who are interested in federal procurement. Next slide, please. One area that is top of mind across the board, and we hear this all the time, is veterans' inability sometimes to access needed capital. So this slide here just points out a couple of things I'd like to highlight. First of all, with the SBA Express loan. So last year, the SBA Express loan, the maximum amount was increased to $500,000. And the point that I would like to make with the Express loan is that the guarantee fees that veterans have been required to pay in the past have been permanently reduced to zero. So this is the Express loan now. It's, usually it's approved, within a week or so. That's why it's called Express. But the big point here is that there is no longer a fee that the applicant would have to pay for the use of the Express loan. And then the next portion of this slide just talks about the veteran qualifications, 51% owned and controlled by the veteran, good character, active duty, reservist, military, active duty, reservist, National Guard, or military spouses are all eligible for participating in the SBA loan program. And then the SBA Community Advantage pilot program was set to expire this year, but here recently, the administration expanded the Community Advantage pilot program to 30 September 2024. And again, this is a program that provides the lending, if you will, but there's also a technical management piece, technical assistance, I should say, to help business owners who are participating in the Community Advantage loan program. And then the last one on here, disaster assistance, the military reservist economic injury disaster loan, is a program that is designed to support businesses who have a key member of their staff that's called up to active duty, either as a reservist or a National Guard person. And this is a loan, it's available, it's a $2 million a max. And again, like I said, it's for essential employees called to active duty. And this, the $2 million loan helps this business owner, pay their operating expenses and so forth. On the next slide, I'd like to just highlight National Veteran Small Business Week. National Veteran Small Business Week takes place in the first week of November. We have had 8 National Veteran Small Business Weeks. It's a national event, if you will. And the purpose is to raise awareness of veteran-owned small businesses in their local communities. I talked earlier about the impact that these businesses have on those communities. And then the second thing that we want to accomplish with National Veteran Small Business Week is to connect those business owners with SBA resources that are available to help them. The next portion on this slide just talks about last year's National Veteran Small Business Week. The theme, vet biz, strength and resilience. We had over 200 or nearly close to 200 events nationwide and 11,000 participants that participated in National Veteran Small Business Week. So we're very proud of being able to highlight veteran-owned small businesses during that time period. And then I want to shift gear a little bit to just talk about something that we're working on in the Office of Veterans Business Development, as well as across the SBA. And that's the transfer of VA's Center for Verification and Evaluation to SBA. So in the FY21 National Defense Authorization Act, that law mandated that VA's CVE be transferred to SBA effective 1 January 2023. So I'm leading a tiger team, if you will, that's working very closely with the VA and the veteran small business community. And that's another reason why I'm really happy and pleased to be here today, to be able to share some information on where we are with this transfer. So as a reminder to veteran-owned small businesses, if you are certified now through the VA and you're coming up for the window for recertification, which is 6 months out, if your recertification is like within that 6-month window, we're encouraging you to renew your certification with the VA now, so that you're not, caught up at the end when we're transitioning the system in the December, January timeframe. And if you're a self-certified small business owner and you're not participating in federal contracting, but you're interested in participating, we're also asking you to start the certification process now, because the bottom line, as indicated on this slide, is after the transfer, after 1 January 2023, if you're wanting to do business with the federal government as a veteran-owned small business or a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, you will have to be certified through SBA. And the bottom line with that is self-certification is going away. We're right now, you can self-certify and participate in government contracting with all the federal agencies, with the exception of the VA. But the purpose of the law and what we're doing now with moving the CVE over to SBA, it's going to, first of all, it's going to put all certification programs in one agency, which is the SBA. And then we're going to do away with self-certification. If we go to the next slide, this is a huge lift. There's, we're, like I said, we're working through what the transfer is going to look like. We're building a new system at SBA to house the verification process. And what we really want to do is make sure that the veteran small business community know what we're doing. We want to be completely transparent and get the information out, every step of the way leading up to 1 January 2023. So this slide here just talks about the outreach and how to stay in touch with us to know what's going on with the transfer. That second bullet is the one I really want to highlight. So if you have questions about the transfer, you can reach out to us at cvetransfer@sba.gov. We'll answer your questions, and you can also be added to our mailing list. We send out monthly email updates as to where we are with the transfer. So that's cvetransfer@sba.gov for all of your questions, and then you can be added to our monthly email update mail out list that we send out. And we're also discussing the CVE transfer during our quarterly Federal Advisory Committee meetings. Our next Federal Advisory Committee meeting will take place on the 2nd of June. Look for that notice in the Federal Register. We devote a segment of every one of the advisory committee meetings to talking about the CVE, to include taking questions from the public. So I would encourage all of you who are interested in staying up to date to join us for those advisory committee meetings. And then the last bullet here just talks about office hours in the summer. And we're looking, hopefully we can get this off the ground in the June timeframe. We're looking to have office hours. So this will be segments where we will go out into the public and provide information on where we are with the migration, but at the same time answering questions from the veteran small business community about the transfer, what to expect, and so forth. And then my final slide here is just to talk about, just give you my contact information. And again, thank you all very much for having me here today. And I will just conclude by saying, if you're a transitioning service member, a veteran, military spouse, reservist, or National Guardsman, and you're interested in small business ownership, or you are a small business owner, SBA is here for you every step of the way of your entrepreneurial journey. Whatever your need is, we can help you at SBA. You are not in business alone. We're here to support you. So thank you very much for having me here today.
Thank you so much, Larry. We really appreciate it. And we're going to bring you back at the end because there's been a lot of questions in the chat. And of course, you got all the answers. So we are going to bring you back to dive into some of those questions. So thank you so much for that. We're going to go to our next slide because we're going to talk to Mr. Antonio Das, who is the Deputy Associate Administrator for the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development at the SBA. Antonio?
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And for those of you who it may not yet be afternoon, I'll still say good morning. I appreciate Larry's presentation and all the information that he had to share about what's been happening in the veterans community, and a lot of really great support. What I'm going to speak to is a little bit more general in terms of the ways that the Small Business Administration and the federal government in its entirety is working to help create more contracting opportunities for small businesses. So this encompasses not just the veteran community, but women-owned businesses, as along with businesses that are in our Hub Zone program, et cetera. So let me first start by just talking briefly about federal contracting and the goaling process. So every year, the Small Business Administration issues a goal to all the federal agencies surrounding how do we get to the point where we can achieve at least 23% of the federal spending dollars being awarded in contracts to small businesses. And for a lot of years, that 23% goal was extremely elusive to us. We got close over and over and over and over again, but as my old statistics and professor used to say, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And so we never quite made it to 23%. But 8 years ago, we did make it to 23%. And we have for 8 years since then been doing a stellar job as a federal government in reaching that 23% goal. In fact, last fiscal year data we reported for fiscal year 2020, we achieved 26.02%. So well beyond the 23% goal. So what does that mean dollar-wise? That meant $145.7 billion in federal contracts were awarded to small businesses. And that's a significant number because as the years have gone by, that $145 billion number is a lot more than it used to be just 5 and 10 years ago. So really, really, really great success. So much to celebrate. How could there be anything more that we could do, right? That's really, really good news. Well, through an initiative that the Biden administration put in place regarding racial equity, we actually pulled together across the federal government, led by the White House, our Office of Management and Budget, as well as our Office of Federal Procurement Policy, an entire working group to look at how do we actually affect more opportunities to get to small businesses and those that are small disadvantaged businesses in particular. And as part of our work in looking at all this, we examined what the trends were. And so I told you about this really great trend we had on the dollar amounts that were being awarded. What we discovered as we looked more closely is it was almost a tale of two scenarios. So in one, dollars are up, fantastic. We're 8 years in a row, we're making our goal. We're getting more dollars, higher percentages pretty much every year. At the same time, what the same data told us was that since 2010, the number of small businesses that received prime contracting awards was on a downward cycle, was down 38% in the past decade. And we also weren't bringing in new small businesses, new entrants to this process. That number was significantly down. We noticed as we looked at the competitiveness of going after small business contract awards, that had actually increased. So whereas a few years ago, maybe you wanted to go after a contract, you might have been competing with 8 businesses. Now we were seeing where you're competing with like 20 businesses. And so more and more information told us that there were some underlying issues that were kind of masked by this great amount of success that we were having with the overall dollar amount. And so in addition to that, we also knew and saw for sure with some of the data that the awards that we were making for small businesses were overly concentrated in just 35 of the congressional districts across this country. So most of the contracts were going to just a few congressional districts, and it's not as widespread. So very, very pleased to report that the team of people who came together from all of our major federal agencies were able to look at this situation and devise a few adjustments, particularly with regard to some of the category management tools that we had put in place to create better efficiency and better, more efficient use of the federal dollar. But we're trying to now balance a little bit more, making sure we're getting the efficiency aspect in place. So we're using your tax dollar well, but at the same time, making sure we're creating more opportunities for small businesses to participate and to build our supplier base and strengthen our industrial base. And for anybody who's been around the last 2 years paying any attention to anything happening in the news, COVID has been front and center, and it also demonstrated some challenges that we've had with respect to being able to produce the goods and services, but primarily the goods that we need within the US. We've had to reach outside of the country for critical supplies during the COVID high points that really stressed the need for us to do better. So having said all that, our collective group came together, and the Office of Management and Budget ultimately issued in December a memo to all the federal agencies directing the federal government to take certain changes to improve the ability for us to make more contract awards to more small businesses, to more small small disadvantaged businesses, more women-owned businesses, more veteran-owned businesses, et cetera. So 5 things to report on. One is we have a goal. I mentioned a 23% goal for small business. We also have a goal for small disadvantaged businesses. That goal is 5%. It's been 5% for a lot of years. And actually, the president called for us to double that goal. So to actually triple that goal to get us up to 15%. And so what we're doing now is working with all the federal agencies. We have set a new goal for fiscal year 2022 that each agency is to achieve 11% of their federal spending to small disadvantaged businesses. So we went from 5% goal to 11% goal this year. We also had major reform to the category management approach. We've also, as part of that, have an increased focus on bringing in new entrants. So if you've never contracted with the federal government, we're trying to find ways to help make sure you have a path to be able to get those prime contract awards. We've increased accountability for leaders who have responsibility for the contracts. So if you're a senior executive in the federal government, or if you're a senior procurement executive, or anyone who's really affecting the contracting decisions, all of those folks now have, as part of their performance requirements, their personal performance requirements, the achievement of these contracting goals to help make sure we're getting done what we need to be able to do. And then the 5th thing of that group is there is an Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization across our federal government agencies. And this OMB requirement says we now have to make sure that those persons are reporting very high in their agencies to the secretary or the deputy secretary at the least, so that they have broad authority, broad visibility to positively create momentum, to create more chances, more avenues for small businesses to participate. So actions taken, we've moved the goal to 11%. Agencies are already diligently working on that. They've created strategies to try to make sure that they're able to achieve that number. For category management reform, in short, what I'll say is that there was a scoring rubric that was used before this year, which prioritized other types of businesses before small disadvantaged businesses, before women-owned, before veteran-owned, before our hub-zone businesses. And this new reform says, no, we're going to prioritize our social and economically disadvantaged businesses first. And even if it's a consideration of whether you're, as a contracting official, you want to go with something that's going to give you category management credit or credit for our socioeconomic businesses, if it's a tie, OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, has said small business wins. Make that decision to the small disadvantaged, the small women-owned business, the veteran-owned business, et cetera. We've got a heavy focus on bringing in more new entrants now. As I mentioned, there's a number of different strategies, but part of it is just even identifying how do we calculate what a new entrance is and establishing some things there. So we're well on the way of doing that. I mentioned before that we have now built a level of accountability into the process. So senior officials now have as their own part of their own performance plans to make sure that they are actually achieving these objectives. And there's a few other smaller, probably a little bit more inside baseball changes that have taken place, but we have really made a lot of improvements, and we're eager to see how these improvements work to continue to create better pathways to get more small businesses into the federal space, to get more prime contractors, and to help create more jobs across the country as these businesses find success in the federal marketplace. The federal government has pretty much been a growth market for the last bunch of years. And so we're looking forward to helping small businesses become and continue to become strong participants in that space. And so with that, I will end my remarks and turn back over to Ms. Renee Johnson.
Thank you, Antonio. And just like with Larry, we're going to bring you back because there's tons of questions. People are excited about hearing more about contracting and how that works, and particularly with veteran businesses. So thank you so much for that. We're going to go into our next slide. And what we're going to do is give you guys just a quick overview. There's going to be a lot of text on these slides. I'm not going to read them all because I know we want to get to some of your questions. So what we're going to do is a synopsis, if you will, which also means that you guys are going to also get a copy of this presentation. So don't worry, you will get a copy of this if you registered for this webinar. That means that you signed up and you got a link to attend. You will get this tomorrow, as well as a copy of this webinar too. So the presentation, these slides, all of this information will come to you. And if you did not, don't worry, it's going to be available on Facebook as it's being live streamed right now to the Public-Private Strategies Institute page, as well as to the SBA Facebook pages as well. So more to come on that. So I will reiterate that again. And just so you guys know, again, I'm not going to read all of the information. This is going to be very high level so that we can get to the Q&A. All right, so we're going to talk about the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, American Rescue Plan, and Made in America. And again, we're going to go through this kind of quick. So on November 15th, 2021, President Biden signed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is basically the bill that everyone refers to. And it's going to ensure that the country makes these next investments into infrastructure. And that's going into clean water, into broadband, into rebuilding our crumbling roads, failing bridges, and climate change, right? So this is something that we know we need in our country, and we know our small business owners, like yourselves, are going to be very instrumental to having contracts to the government in order to make sure that this is successful. Next slide, please. So how does this impact small businesses? Well, This law, like I just said, is going to virtually touch every part of Main Street in the economy. The U.S. Department of Transportation is going to award more than $37 billion in federal contracts to small, disadvantaged business contractors. There's going to be investments in transportation infrastructure, which will reduce the small business shipping delays that we've seen throughout the country over the course of the past few years. There's going to be also support and an estimated 700,000 jobs per year. And it's going to help with small business owners like yourselves hire new employees and reach customers by providing universal broadband. And I don't know, like you, like me, and some of us today, I don't know if you see our interpreter, there's been Wi-Fi issues. So broadband is something that we want to make sure that we are able to ensure is steady and is streaming and is working well to ensure our small business owners are thriving. And then also another huge thing that it's going to help is foster the development of Main Street small businesses in underserved communities by empowering the Minority Business Development Agency, which is also known as the MBDA, which is also part of the Department of Commerce. Next slide, please. So we have some amazing resources for you to connect to learn more about the infrastructure law. And one is this guidebook. So again, you will get a copy of this presentation and those links you can click on. The infrastructure guidebook will tell you about the different agencies, the different opportunities you as a business owner can connect with the government to learn how your business can be a part of this. There's also different opportunities from the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, as well as the Department of Interior. Again, this infrastructure opportunity is going to touch pretty much every government agency. So definitely click on that guidebook and you'll be able to see so many opportunities for your businesses. Next slide, please. So the American Rescue Plan and other tax incentives. The American Rescue Plan was also something that passed in Congress in 2021. And it was part of the CARES Act, and it focused on small business owners and their consumers. And basically it was able to provide those who were in struggling communities in the wake of COVID-19 some additional support. It provided emergency grants, lending opportunities, and investments to the hardest hit small businesses so that they can rehire, retain workers, and purchase the health and sanitation equipment they needed to help keep their workers safe during this time. It distributed more than $360 billion in emergency federal funding for state, local, tribal governments to ensure that they are in a position to keep their frontline workers on their jobs and able to make sure that everyone was safe. And then also it helped hard hit public transportation transit agencies avoid layoffs and avoid service interruptions as well. Let's go to that next slide. So one thing that came out of this that many of us know about is that Community Navigator program. And so we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about a few of the tax credits. And again, I'm not going to go into details too far because I want to make sure we have time for the Q&A. But you'll be able to have a copy of this presentation so you can dive into it and click on all the links to ensure what works best for your business. But I want to make sure we talk about the Community Navigator program. So let's go to the next slide. So the American Rescue Plan provided the Community Navigator program, which was part of the SBA's initiative to ensure that small business owners were connected to resources in their local community, right? To understand how that they are able to find programs that will help them recover, grow, and start, or even, continue their businesses to thrive. A total of $100 million in funding to 51 organizations was awarded and was awarded to hundreds of local community groups to improve access to SBA government resources for entrepreneurs like yourself. The selected projects cover diverse communities across the US and Puerto Rico. Grantees serve as hubs, centralized lead organizations which will incorporate spokes, organizations that have built their trust in local communities and will have the boots on the ground that will connect small businesses to critical resources and assistance, which will include financial assistance and access to capital, contracting and procurement, marketing, operation, business development, and exporting, and then industry-specific training. And many of you are like, well, how do I connect? Well, and when we send out this presentation, you see there's a link there. You could just go ahead and click on that link, which is locate a community navigator. And you can definitely find one in your local community to be able to find these opportunities to be sort of like powered into these resources. Let's go on to that next slide. So again, we're not going to go into too much details because I want to make sure we have time for the Q&A, but we want to just touch on some of these income tax credits that were really important that help many business owners. And as many of you know, April 18th will be here before you know it, and it's tax day. So we want to make sure that you guys take a look at these next few slides about the earned income tax credit, as well as the paid leave tax credit, to see if they're applicable for your businesses. I just want to let you guys know the EITC provides greater economic security for working families, especially those with children. It evolved into one of the federal government's most critical anti-poverty programs. And the American Rescue Plan expanded the EITC, and currently Congress is deciding if it will become permanent. As of today, there are 29 states and the District of Columbia that have established their own EITC. And as you see on the map here, you can see just at a quick cursory glance which states have them. And then also, again, when we send this out, you can click on, see if your state has its own EITC. So we're going to go on to the next slide. We're just going to go past this to the next tax credit. And again, these are going to be resources. So the child tax credit, the American Rescue Plan signed into law by President Biden expanded the child tax credit for 2021 to get more help to more families. And basically there were different sectors depending on the child's age and the qualifying amount. So as you see here listed, for example, increase the credit from up to $2,000 per qualifying child in 2020, up to $3,600 for each qualifying child under the age of 6. And if you go to childtaxcredit.gov, you can learn more information there as well. We're going to go on to the next tax credit. And again, there are more resources for you to use. And finally, the paid family leave tax incentive. Under this program, employers can offer up to 12 weeks of paid leave, and leave can be used for someone to take lead care of a family member, maternity or paternity leave with biological or adopted children. And then in exchange for offering the leave, employers will receive as much as 25% tax credit for the amount of wages replaced. So the policy is targeted to hourly employees who would not otherwise have access to paid family leave. Employees who participate cannot take more than $72,000 per year. So that is one of the only downfalls of that as well. And again, there's some more slides here for you to learn more information and resources about that. Now, the Made in America, what does that mean? So again, 2021, the Made in America office was codified and created, which was part of the Bipartisan infrastructure law, and has already helped so many agencies throughout the federal government implement Made in America requirement. It established a requirement for agencies to submit proposed waivers for a review. And it directed the creation of a new website for public transparency, so people will know that this product was made in America. OMB subsequently issued guidance on how to implement the Made in America plan. And there are a few steps that you need to take in order to be able to do business with the federal government and be part of the Made in America. And if you would like to know more, just go to madeinamerica.gov and you can find out more information there. Now we're going to talk about updates you should know about COVID-19 and becoming a vaccination small business leader. So updates you should know. One thing is we have been through so many iterations of COVID, and it has been a lot since 2020. We know that Omicron represented another step in the virus evolution and has been one of the most contagious viruses in history. We also know that the administration has created a website for you to go to be up to date with information. If you go to whitehouse.gov/COVID plan, you can learn more and stay up to date about what the administration's preparedness plan and the 4 key areas and goals that they have, and stay up to date and know what's happening. We could go to that next slide. Now, as a small business leader, what can you do? Well, if you could get vaccinated, you could get your booster shots. And if you have, thank you so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your employees, your neighbors to do the same. Create a vaccination plan for your business, review state, local policies, and seek legal counsel. Consider incentives such as new paid leave tax credit that was available for employees to get the shot, and also for time for them to recover. Keep your employees appraised of updates of vaccine eligibility and where they can register to get a shot as well. If you live in a disproportionate area impacted by COVID-19, the Health and Human Services Department of the administration has a program that can help provide greater assistance for you. And there's a link that will be provided within the slide deck for you to click on to learn more. Whether you encourage, incentivize, or mandate vaccines, communicate the plan to your employees, both verbally and in writing. And then also continue to follow the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, for guidance on whether to wear masks and social distancing after all of your employees are vaccinated. And then again, there's more resources here for you to create and also implement your plan to your team. And we can go to that next slide. Well, now I'm excited to introduce to you all VR Small, the founder and CEO of Veteran Women's Enterprise Center. VR.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to this very informative resource session. Many thanks to the SBA and Public-Private Strategies for developing this webinar series and inviting us today to share. In my brief overview presentation, I'm gonna focus on 3 topics. One, I wanna share a little bit about the history of the Veteran Women's Enterprise Center, talk a little bit about our efforts in advocacy and research and how that data drives our programming, and then give you a client success story that shares how you can get connected to the resources you need to succeed. So first, the Veteran Women's Enterprise Center's mission is to empower entrepreneur women associated with the military to scale for success. This includes first and foremost veterans, but we also serve active duty, reservists, and military spouse. We are currently serving women across 26 states. We're a national initiative headquartered in Dallas, Texas. And I'm thrilled to share that this year we will host our 5th annual Business Women's Conference. And I'm shamelessly inviting each and every one of you now to mark your calendar for October 19th. It is a full day event. And our theme this year is the journey forward, 5 years in the making. And when we think about our journey forward, a large segment of what we've done is advocacy toward research that we can take that data and use it to drive our programming and of course funding. So in 2019, we were honored to participate in the Bush Institute Stand to Veteran Leadership Program. And during that program, we were able to advance our 2018 Mobile Stat Matter Research Project in collaboration with the Federal Reserve Bank. And we looked at women veterans across the DFW arena. And the results from that project is on our website and available for your review. Now, one of the things that stood out to us is lenders and investors are always telling us that women don't open big businesses, or they don't want to have big businesses. And our research and other research is telling us that that's just simply not true. In fact, over 50% of our respondents told us that they wanted to hire employees and that they wanted their business to be their main source of income, but they just didn't have enough revenues. And although our sampling was small, in March of 2021, IVMS released a pullout from their veteran entrepreneur survey that said that 61% of women veteran entrepreneurs said the same thing. They want their businesses to grow. And 46% noted that they would love for their business to be their main source of income, but they just weren't producing enough revenues. So what do? We looked at our research, and what we found was there were 3 themes that we needed to focus on. 1 was access to capital, 2, mentoring and networking opportunities, and 3, contracting. And again, our sampling was small, but our data was validated by the IMF research that shows that 39% of women veteran entrepreneurs said they had difficulty accessing capital. In fact, over 48% said they were denied for a loan, and 64% of that group never reapplied. When it comes to mentoring, 29% said they needed mentoring. And it breaks my heart because we are a community-based organization that over 50% noted they didn't know how to reach local organizations. And last but not least, another 39% said they had no idea that there were resources or support to help them with government contracting. So what do? In 2020, we launched the Next Level Business Transformation, only referred to as NLBT cohort. And Kelly Mumphrey, CEO of MilkSpace, was one of our 2020 fellows. This program offered over 50 hours of technical assistance and a $5,000 grant. Kelly came to us with a business that provides breastfeeding at conferences and events. But of course, during COVID, that all ended. So we helped her pivot. Kelly stayed with us via our monthly cohort circles and continued to learn about other resources and other providers in our community. And in 2021, she came back and competed in our pitch platform. She not only won first place, but she also won the Audience Choice Award for a total of over $23,000. Today, Kelly has developed her mobile milk space. She started out with a budget of over $175,000, but working with the BWEC and our partners at JP Morgan Chase, we mentored her and helped her to review and revise her budget so she was able to get her mobile unit for only $2,000 over what she had in budget. And she's now booking with major events across the DFW area. And we believe this is a business that can get national investments. So at the Veteran Women's Enterprise Center, we understand what our women's issues are, but we don't just base it on our assumptions, we base it on data. And we're going to relaunch our Moments That Matters focus groups, and we hope some of you will participate to continue to dig deeper and understand what your needs are. Thank you, Renee.
Thanks, VR. We really appreciate that. And we'll be with you in a moment about some questions too. And now we're going to go to Shelby Nelson, the Program Experience Manager with Bunker Labs. Shelby.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. Well, I am just so excited to be here with you all. And first of all, I want to say shout out to you all for hanging on. I know sometimes we're towards the end of our Zoom capabilities, so it's just so exciting to see so many of you here in this virtual room. And I, kind of coming into this, as you guys know, my name's Shelby, and I am coming to you guys today from Bunker Labs, a nonprofit that is helping military connected entrepreneurs grow their businesses. But I just want to say thank you all to the fellow speakers here today. I've definitely heard a theme of community building, and that is something that is very near and dear to our heart at Bunker Labs, because this is not something that we can do alone. As we all know, this is a tough journey that is dependent on having a network of people that can provide resources and support and mentorship to you along the way. So that is what Bunker Labs is all about, really. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to just explain what Bunker is, and then I'll spend most of the time on some action and next steps for you all here today on how to get involved and continue your journey. So for those of you who are not familiar, Bunker Labs provides community, as I mentioned, programs and courses to help military veterans and military spouses and children of military active duty and veterans to grow successful businesses. It's really that simple. We want to make sure that you have the support around you, both locally and nationally, to pursue your dreams. So the future of our vision is really that military service is a leading pathway to successful business ownership and entrepreneurship. We believe that it's, veterans, military spouses, the military connected community as a whole is very well equipped to be the business leaders of our country. And we want to give you guys the support to do so. So shout out to all of you here today who are starting and growing your own businesses. You're not alone, as the hundreds and hundreds of people on this call today show. So I'll tell you kind of a little bit about the Bunker Labs community. We are a community-based program that is all over the United States. So we have local economy and ecosystem leaders all around the US. They're called ambassadors, and they are working to connect locally with entrepreneurs who are military connected. And we're very, very focused on ensuring that the entrepreneurs that we support reflect the diversity of the military community. And we're really proud that our program participants exceed national averages in several measures of diversity, and that Bunker Labs not only meets those diversity goals, but also has a inclusive community there to provide resources and networking in all aspects of your work as a business owner. So I'm very, very proud of that, to serve, 60% of our community are service disabled veterans. Just about 10% are military spouses or family members, and 10% are active duty as well. So, just going out there and starting their entrepreneurial journey early. And we have a lot of initiatives that I'll kind of touch on here in a second that really provide those resources for members, again, of all different communities and cultures to come and get the resources they need. So as I mentioned, we are a program-based nonprofit. So what does that mean? We provide programs to meet you at all levels of business. So we start out with our Veterans and Residents program, which is a peer facilitated 6-month business incubator for entrepreneurs who are military connected to really network with their fellow entrepreneurs and are in the grind of being able to, really kind of work around those pain points when you are growing your business. And it's an accountability group. It is really intimate in terms of there's 8 to 10 of you locally meeting weekly to talk about the problems that you're facing, share resources, lessons learned, all that good stuff. So that's Veterans and Residents, and we are very, very proud to be partnered with WeWork on that. On that program, we provide working space in WeWorks across the country if you are accepted into the VIR program. Applications just closed for our upcoming cohort, but they happen every 6 months. So stay tuned. I'll drop a bunch of links in the chat when I'm done talking. I cannot multitask to apply to that program later in the year. Next, we have CEO Circle, which is actually a 13-month program that is a vetted mastermind group for established growth stage founders who are really in that scale part of their business. So they are looking to connect with other business owners that are in a similar stage for them, and just have kind of that accountability, the industry subject matter experts to help them solve really pressing business problems that they're facing at this point in their business. And last but not least, our final program and applications are open now for this. And I have my timer, so I'm coming up on my 5 minutes, but I'll go over a little bit. And so applications are open for the Ambassador program right now. These are our local ecosystem builders. These are the people that get it done on the ground and connect entrepreneurs to the resources that they need. So this is all around the country and all communities that have people who are military connected and are looking to build those ecosystems around them. And I will touch on very briefly some other initiatives that we have going on right now as well. Breaking barriers in entrepreneurship is something that we have applications open for right now. So lots of applications open, but this one is really near and dear to my heart because it's something that I get to work on weekly. And it is a workshop series that facilitates business growth and support for Asian American, Black, Hispanic, and female founders. So if that is you, definitely check out Breaking Barriers in Entrepreneurship, and I'll make sure to share a link to that application page as well. See some links coming in the chat, so thank you very much, Renee. And then, of course, we have Bunker Online, which is our virtual community. It's ever growing, always organic connections happening there, online.bunkerlabs.org. And really just, at the end of the day, giving as many resources as possible to you guys to connect with each other. And I will just call out a few things. I know I mentioned applications open for our ambassador program and Breaking Barriers, but also we have a really big event happening on June 1st all around the country called our Veterans and Residents Showcase. Definitely check that out on our website as well. So Renee, I know we're coming on time. I'll hand the mic over to you. It's wonderful to meet you all. And again, thank you to the SBA for having me today.
Thank you so much. We're actually going to just ask all of our amazing speakers to come back up. We can actually just drop the slide real quick and just have everyone spotlighted that are our amazing speakers, because we're just going to go through a couple of quick questions. I know we're at time, but there have been so many questions for you all. So I just wanted to throw a couple at you. So I'll start with you, Larry, first. OVB has a number of programs and services to assist aspiring veteran entrepreneurs. Can you provide just a couple of examples of how people can connect with you, like after this call today, to talk to you more about how they can get networked in?
Okay, thank you. That's a very good question. I would say in regards to getting connected, to me personally, I would say I would like to see our audience reach out to our Veterans Business Outreach Centers. So you can reach the Veteran Business Outreach Centers like and I'll drop it in the chat, but SBA.gov, / OVBD gives you all the information on OVBD and all of our programs. And I'll just say this real quick about the Veteran Business Outreach Centers. I mentioned there's 22 of them. They're located around the country. They cover all 50 states and territories. But these are veterans, military spouses, and former business owners who are running these centers. So they speak the military language. They can identify with the unique issues and problems that veterans have starting and growing businesses. So reach out to our Veteran Business Outreach Centers. And even though there's 22, like I said, in this virtual environment, and with communications being what it is, all 50 states are covered.
Great, thank you. Antonio, I'm going to ask you for the contract and procurement side, as veterans are asking so many questions here, are there special programs that are designed for veterans for the Office of Contract and Procurement specifically? Is there anything that they can do, or any advantages or eligibility requirements that are different for them that can help them with accessing opportunities to the government?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, Renee. Part of what I would respond to that is, one, as Larry's mentioned, we have the Veterans Business Outreach Centers. It's always a great connection point. We also have, I don't know, we've really talked as much about our district offices here this time, but each of our district offices, 68 locations across the country, is staffed with people who will often conduct information sessions, webinars. We're doing more webinars these days than in person, but in-person events and such too. And so they're a resource to support. And then the third resource I would recommend is the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. There's, I believe, 90 Procurement Technical Assistance, or PTAC, locations across the country. And they are really a part of the Department of Defense. But what they're specifically charged to do is help people understand how to access the federal marketplace. So those are three sources that I would highly recommend, in addition to our other resource partners that we have across our small business development centers, women's business centers, and SCORE.
Thank you for that. Going to come to VR. There are a lot of women out here who are veterans, and they want to say thank you for the work you're doing in uplifting women veterans, because it's a community that I think is forgotten sometimes. So thank you for honoring these ladies who have served this country as well. But they want to know, how can they connect with you about the work you're doing, and also where are you located? Are you located in every state? And if so, how can they get networked in?
Okay, so first and foremost, as a Navy veteran, a sister in arms, I am thrilled and honored to be able to serve my other sisters. Second, you can reach us at veteranwomensec.org. That's our website. Immediately upon arriving at our website, we have a link where you can schedule an information or mentoring session at your convenience. And we do that across the nation. So a lot of our programs are hybrid. They will be virtual as well as on site. So coming up is Women's Veterans Day, the pitch. That is a Texas-based program. We'll have a pitch competition on June 11th. Women across the state of Texas are open to apply. And then in October, we hope to have our pitch platform again. Last year it was 40K. We hope to keep that number or raise it up. And the registration for that will open soon too. The best way to find out what's going on at the BWEC, go to our calendar, go to our website, click on our calendar, and every single link for every single event that we have going on will be there, so you can register or find out more information. It'll tell you if it's national, if it's virtual, or if it's on site only.
Thank you so much, VR. And Shelby, I'm seeing a lot of questions like, wow, there's so many programs that Bunker Labs has, but one that sticks out is the military veterans and military spouses programs and initiatives. Are you able to talk more about some of those programs and how people are able to connect about those particular initiatives?
Yes, definitely, Renee. So thank you for flagging. And I know it's a lot of information to kind of translate in a short amount of time. So I would just encourage, if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur at any stage, and you are just looking for ways to both grow or scale or get connected to fellow entrepreneurs, just go to our programs page, and I'll drop the link again in the chat right now, Renee, because I think it's just like it's such a great way to just say, okay, which one is right for me? Because there is one that's right for you. It's just a matter of which stage you're in usually. And then also, kind of what you're looking to get at this point in time. And timing is everything in this journey. And it's about, how much energy you're willing to put in to either connect with others and share resources, or just get involved to grow your business. So I dropped the link to our programs landing page. Definitely check that out because we have something for you. It's just a matter of which one.
Wow, thank you. I'm going to just throw this out to everyone because it's going to be our final question, because we are well over time. And I want to just say thank you all so much for being a part of this. For all those who serve, thank you for your service to the country. And then also for all the work you all are doing for those former servicemen and women and current servicemen and women and their families. So thank you. But if there's any parting advice to our small business owners that are watching today, what is your parting advice that you like to give them? And we could just round robin. We'll start with you, Shelby.
I love it. Advice is don't be afraid to ask for help. I think we all think that we can do it on our own. And, the biggest ability, your greatest asset will be your ability to show up authentically to your peers, to say what you're working through. So that's my advice. Thank you so much again, Renee.
Thank you. VR.
Absolutely. My biggest advice is get and stay connected. So follow all of these different programs on social media. Specifically for us, when anything launches, we push it out to social media and on our website. Don't isolate. Build your social capital. That's how that network is really going to help you to grow your business. So get and stay connected.
Thank you so much. Antonio.
Leverage the tremendous amount of resources that are free and available to you, and learn what you don't know and who can help you know that better.
Well, that's something I need to remember myself. Thank you. And then, of course, Mr. Larry.
Yeah, I'll just echo my colleagues on the panel by just saying one thing, and that's entrepreneurship is not a solo act. It's not a solo act.
Well, thank you all. We really appreciate you all being here today. This is the conclusion of today's program, where we focus on veterans and the services that the SBA has, and also resource partners. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We will be back in 2 weeks for our next webinar series installment, so stay tuned. We will be here every Wednesday at 2. Well, not every other Wednesday here at 2. So again, thank you all for joining us, and have a great week. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Best wishes.